Que fechou, Chico.
Quiet on the set. Quiet, please. First positions, please. Rolling action.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Director's Cut. My name is Marco, and I'm joined here with Catherine,
Hey, everyone.
Bill,
Hello.
and Scarlett.
Hello.
We have a full house today because we're going to talk about this great movie that, well, Bill and Catherine are very big fans of, Star Trek.
Yeah.
Well, the new Star Trek, there are actually like 9 movies.
There
called
are?
Star
9
Trek.
movies?
Wow.
This is the definitive Star Trek now. I guess they've kind of rebranded
Is
it
it
that
the
way.
definitive?
No,
I thought the Wrath
it's not.
of Khan was
We can
the
talk about
definitive.
that. I agree with you there.
This is one that
But-
people that aren't fans of Star Trek
This
will
is the
watch.
new one, the young generation.
The
so
cool
it's
This is, yeah.
it's like the prequel. It's
Yeah.
like
Exactly, because...
But it's done in a good way. It's done in a really good way.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not like Transformers or something like that.
What?
They're like,
Transformers
What's wrong with
is cool.
Transformers? Transformers is good.
wait, we're not talking about Transformers
Sorry,
right now.
All right, so
But it's a rebranding.
Well, that's the
it
thing.
is, and it's all new actors, new directors. I mean, it's very fresh.
And everyone that is not a Star Trek fan seemed to like it and to understand it. And in general, the consensus was that it was a good film. And everyone was kind of hesitant because, like, Star Trek, you always, people don't really
Say it.
follow it.
Say
And
it.
it's kind of nerdy. It is kind
Well,
of nerdy.
this is what we should
not the
say.
coolest.
There's a group of people that are hardcore fans of Star Trek.
What do you call them?
They're called Trekkies.
They have conferences and
Oh
they
my
dress
gosh.
up.
They're
And
very
Deanna
famous.
Troy often participates in conferences.
Wow.
Deanna Troy still participates in conferences.
So what do they conference about?
Characters,
plots, yeah, like technical specifications, things like this. They'll be like in episode 0145.
Have you guys been to a
we noticed you
conference?
realigned
No.
the dilithium crystal
Bet Bill
chamber
has.
in a way that's
Wow.
but this is inconsistent with later episodes when we did this. So
Yeah, like they map out the science of Star Trek and they talk about consistencies, inconsistencies.
yeah, that's
Wow.
There's like the guy who created the language Klingon was a linguist who actually took from different languages, and so now there's actually a grammar and a vocabulary for this language. I mean, it's real word.
Actually, I don't know what that's. I can't remember. I know one word of Klingon, but I forgot it.
All right, so there is a whole fan base and a culture behind Star Trek. But on this occasion, we're going to talk briefly about the movie. So the modern version, as we said, it was great. A lot of people liked it. But why do you think that is? What do you mentioned the rebranding of Star Trek?
Chris Pine is a hottie.
Yeah, I was just going to
Who's
say
that?
too.
Is that
the main
Kirk?
guy?
Yummy. He's
Kirk.
That's
the
young
young
Kirk.
Captain Kirk.
I see.
Yeah.
And also the guy from Heroes.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know any of these new young guys.
In Heroes, he plays
Who's that? Spock?
Spock.
Oh.
On Heroes, he plays the guy that has mental
I
powers.
thought Spock was okay. I like.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the new Spock.
Spock. I'm not a huge fan with any of it. Actually, I'm not
Uhura
even a
was
huge.
a little bit.
I'm not even a huge fan of the movie. I think this is what people
Really?
often say about Trek. This is what I heard when it first came out. There's a kind of a joke made about this new movie, and it's a nerd talking about Star Trek, and it's something like, "Oh, that movie, that new Star Trek movie, it's totally inconsistent. It's terrible. Blah blah blah." But yet he still goes and he sees it like 8 times in a row. And so it's that kind of feeling. Like it doesn't compare to the original ones, but it's cool that they redid it, I think. And it's cool to see new special effects and stuff, but it's not really true to the original spirit, I think.
Well, and I think you want to talk about rebranding. That's part of the rebranding process. What they did is they took really hot young actors who some of them are no name, some of them are kind of like B-list. They dressed them up in hot clothes and they threw in a ton of special effects. And it was like a slammin' summer blockbuster like action movie. But the spirit, like Bill says, of the old Star Trek is that effects are bad. I mean,
Yeah.
the settings are really kind of poor quality.
Right,
and
especially the originals.
the original series, like the first season, is rough for special effects because they have these these boulders in quotes that people get hit with, and they're obviously styrofoam, and there's paint like coming off.
Yeah.
But the brilliance is in the acting and like the overacting and the writing, and it's all very kind of cheap sci-fi.
Well, the whole history
Well, I
and
guess-
the background, I think, is what makes it special.
Well, like, for example, in my case, and I know that this is Scarlett's case as well, we've never really followed Star Trek. And when we saw this movie, it was a little bit refreshing because you don't have this entire culture that you have to understand in order
Yeah.
to understand the movie.
You don't have to see the episode.
Exactly. So you come to the movie, you kind of find out a little bit about Star Trek, and it's fresh. So you actually understand it, and it's not like you walk out of the movie theater when
Confused.
the movie, making references to shows and previous episodes. You're
Right.
like, what? You don't understand. What
I
he's
think
talking
that's
about.
what's upsetting to hardcore fans is that these people can just jump right in and be
Has
like,
it not
"Oh,
followed
this is
any
interesting."
story from the episodes, or
Well,
is
that's
it
what's-
like going back to the beginning of when the episode
Well,
started?
they
or-
That's what's
they
brilliant about it.
recreate it. They make a new. It's a whole.
just a new
story.
plot.
It's a whole new storyline because they introduced some pretty awesome. I think this time paradox thing where people are traveling back in time. So actually, it's completely different than how things turn out in the Star Trek universe. So they're creating a new thing. So they're leaving themselves open to create another movie. I'm
Well,
sure of that.
I really appreciated that about this particular movie, because if they followed along the old plot line and they remade it, they would have ticked off everybody.
Yeah.
All the
That's
fans,
true.
the old acting, they would have made everyone really angry. So what they did, which was really smart, is they created a super, super hard to wrap your head around, crazy, like string theory approach to like time and replotted the whole series.
Yeah.
And that way you can make the other, the Trekkies happy by not copying the old series.
And it's
And
it's
you can
pretty
make your own story.
creative too. So I think people can.
Yeah, the
enjoy
whole
that.
time paradox thing, like you said, was pretty creative. And,
Yeah.
and well, I guess it also uses more modern theories about like space, time, and the universe, right? So that's kind of
Exactly. And I did spend like 4 days mapping it out for Amory over at French Pod, who was very confused about how two paths of time could have met.
Cool. Does not even get started.
That's basic Star Trek stuff. They've already gone back in time. They went back in time in Star Trek 4.
Yeah.
Wow, you really
Of
did.
course.
All right, so why don't you guys set up with the clip that we're gonna listen to now?
This session has been called to resolve a troubling matter.
James T. Kirk, step forward. Cadet Kirk, evidence has been submitted to this council suggesting that you violated the ethical code of conduct pursuant to Regulation 17.43 of the Starfleet Code. Is there anything you care to say before we begin, sir?
Yes, I believe I have the right to face my accuser directly.
Step forward, please. This is Commander Spock. He is one of our most distinguished graduates. He's programmed the Kobayashi Maru exam for the last 4 years.
Commander.
Cadet Kirk, you somehow managed to install and activate a subroutine in the programming code, thereby changing the conditions of the test.
Your point being?
In academic vernacular, you cheated.
Let me ask you something I think we all know the answer to. The test itself is a cheat, isn't it? I mean, you programmed it to be unwinnable.
Your argument precludes the possibility of a no-win scenario.
I don't believe in no-win scenarios.
Then not only did you violate the rules, you also failed to understand the principal lesson.
Please, enlighten me.
You of all people should know, Cadet Kirk. A captain cannot cheat death.
I have all people.
Your father, Lieutenant George Kirk, assumed command of his vessel before being killed in action, did he not?
I don't think you like the fact that I beat your test.
Furthermore, you have failed to divine the purpose of the test.
Enlighten me again.
The purpose is to experience fear. Fear in the face of certain death. To accept that fear and maintain control of oneself and one's crew. This is a quality expected in every Starfleet captain.
Well, we've got a bunch of these young, strapping
Cadets, right?
cadets who are in training to be in the military,
The
essentially.
Starfleet Academy. Yeah.
The Starfleet Academy.
Look at you, Bill. You're like,
What? That's what it is. That's what they are.
And
They're taking a test.
and they've actually
They take
they've,
tests.
They've taken a test. This is the hardest test that's offered at the Starfleet Academy. It's kind of like for graduating. You
The
have to pass this.
Kobayashi Maru.
And there's some concern that the main character, Kirk, he's not a captain yet, has in some way cheated or kind of stretched the rules. And so we're hearing his trial now at school, and they're going to try and figure out what was going on and whether or not it was legal.
all right, so let's listen. All right, we're back. So it seemed like he didn't really cheat, but he just figured out a way to bend the rules of the game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like found a
but
loophole. Or?
But
it
at the
goes
same
with
time,
his personality. He's kind of snarky about it. And
Right,
he's-
right. But at the same time, he claims that the game is also unfair because it's also like bending the rules of reality in a way.
Well, he's saying you're doomed to failure,
Right.
right? And then
And
that's
he
not
just
fair.
he just doesn't believe in it. So he's got a really strong streak of individualism,
Rebellion.
and rebellion, which they put in good stark contrast to Spock in this.
Right, so Spock
instance.
was there, and he claims that, well, he's really upset because obviously he's pretty arrogant of his intelligence, right? He's a really intelligent being.
Yeah, well, he comes from a place that is not Earth. And because of this, his people are completely logical. They hide all of their emotions. They don't
consider
react.
Oh, did they
emotion
I thought
a
they just didn't
weakness.
have any.
They have
emotions.
them, and actually
they
it comes out in Star Trek, the original series, and Star Trek: The Next Generation. There's some really weird sex stuff.
Whoa. This is more interesting than I thought.
Now we know why Chucky's like this.
But it's not that they don't have these emotions. It's that they kind of, there's a pyramid, and they don't believe. I mean, they're very base, and they don't believe that these should be indulged. And so you hide them. You
a
focus on.
weakness.
Yeah, it's not to be indulged, and so they, above all else, love logic, and that's why this character is sometimes perceived of as very cold and overly rational. In stark contrast to the main character Kirk, who is completely
Emotional.
ego. He's
Impulsive.
emotional, impulsive.
He's a cowboy.
And then the third character, Bones, is super ego, right? So he's the one. Or actually, no, we've got. I messed it up. So we've got Spock, who's ego. We've got Kirk, who's like id. He's all impulse. And we've got Bones, who's the doctor, who's the third friend, who's a little bit older, who is super ego. He's the kind of balancing act between the two.
But he's also like ultra smart, right? Because he's kind of, in the movie, he's
a
presented
doctor.
as a drunk, but then he's like really, in
Bones,
the academy, he
Bones
turns
is
out-
a real humanist. I feel like especially through the series. You know, he's kind of always the voice of this human morality of not always looking at everything from the point of logic, but from a different perspective.
But he also kind of tempers Kirk's character, because Kirk like wants to do the right thing, going for it, and Bones sometimes has to pull him back in. And so Kirk and Bones are best friends, and
Right.
Bones hates Spock because he feels that he doesn't have any humanity to him, right? And so there's always this tension between.
But
between
Spock
the three
is
of them.
half human.
Right,
Yeah,
because
his mom's Winona Ryder.
His mom is Winona Ryder, really? In the movie?
Yeah.
She makes an appearance?
Yeah.
That's right. She's
Yeah.
his mom.
Like right at the
Yeah.
beginning.
Really?
Quite odd, actually.
Throughout the movie, yeah.
Well, I know, I remember that it made a reference to his mom, but like I didn't realize it was Winona Ryder.
Yeah.
That's lame.
Yeah, how old are we getting now that Winona Ryder's playing
mom, I
mothers
know.
and grandmothers?
Yeah, I
and
remember
stuff.
like Beetlejuice.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so all in all, the movie is great. I really actually enjoyed the character who played Spock because, as I said, I've only seen him on Heroes, and he does a pretty good job on Heroes. So it was actually refreshing to see him in this movie. And also, Eric Bana was the villain. That was really cool.
Hottie McHot. Speaking of rebranding. Yeah, I mean Klingons, they're cool, but they're not the best looking. He was
Well, he had
a welcome
yeah.
addition to that.
Well,
film.
although the makeup did cover up a lot of that, he had like one forehead / nose type thing going on there.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah.
All right, so all in all, you guys obviously recommend it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd go ahead and watch it.
was
I
a
would
cool
watch.
movie.
I recommend the whole thing, the whole shebang,
And
all
The whole
35,000 hours of Star Trek footage out there.
and
Wow.
Go
as
check it
with
out.
the other movies, there is like a 12-minute sequence where they're showing the Starship Enterprise, where
as it's coming out of
as
dock,
it's like
yeah.
coming out of dock, and it's this kind of nerd-tastic slow pan. It's like, I don't know, it's
cool
nerd
part.
porn, but
It is pretty cool, though, I must say. And the USS Enterprise looks really cool.
Yeah.
That ship. All right.
Does look good.
So go out, buy the DVD. It's probably out on DVD already, or buy
yeah.
the Blu-ray disc, and it's worth it. I actually watched it only about, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I really enjoyed it. I wish I would have seen it in the movie theater because they said it was amazing.
Yeah,
It was.
good.
Yeah. it
All
was.
right. So that's all the time we have for today. Be sure to check it out. And if you have any questions or comments, visit our website, englishpod.com, and we'll see you guys next time.
bye.
Bye.